Hello everybody, this is Matt from ThatMatt85, and today we are going to be taking a look at my Goodwill games series. This is games that I had bought while I was at Goodwill, and we're going to go through and show them to you. Today we're taking a look at for PC. And before we get too far into this here, we're going to solve our own little Wheel of Fortune puzzle. What are you going to do if you like this video? Like and subscribe is the answer. Yes, please like and subscribe. It helps me out immensely, especially as I'm getting started here. I will very much appreciate every single thumbs up I get. And if you want to see what I have going on or my other content, check out my Twitter at ThatMatt85 to see what I have going on at any given time. This is meant for Windows 95 or 98. Doesn't take up too much graphics or processing power or RAM or anything of that nature, so really if you wanted to play it on Windows 95, it probably is going to work on your computer as long as you have a CD drive. It is not a floppy game. This is a game by Hasbro Interactive, people that do a lot of board games nowadays. They have their own channel, they have their own game shows, and they also do toys such as the My Little Pony series of toys. This game is the first edition. I know they made a second edition, they've made Wii games, they've made all sorts of other releases. Actually, I know they've made a DOS release before this even, but this is the first edition for Windows 95, 98 on CD. The packaging advertises over 2,000 puzzles to solve, special fantasy prizes, on-location settings, and is hosted by Vanna White. The system requirements are Windows 95 or 98, of course, a Pentium 90 MHz or higher, 16 megabytes of RAM, 40 megabytes of free hard disk space, a 4x CD-ROM drive, that's for playing the FMVs that are on here, a compatible 1 megabyte SVGA video card, a compatible sound card. It doesn't really tell us what a compatible sound card is, but honestly, as long as you got sound, it's going to play fine. And DirectX version 5 or higher, which is included. Wheel of Fortune is based off the TV game show Wheel of Fortune, and if you've never even heard of it, then I don't believe you, frankly. It's been on TV for decades, and it's been pretty popular the whole time it's been on TV. But here's an explanation for how the game works if you've heard of it but have never actually seen it or played it yourself. So they have 3 contestants. They'll each take a turn spinning the wheel, which tells them how much money they can win. Then they guess a letter for a consonant, not a vowel. And for every letter that's in the puzzle, they will win that times how much the money they spun on the wheel. And then they get to spin the wheel again and guess another letter. If you want, you can buy a vowel, which costs like 200 of your dollars, so you have to have money already earned to be able to spend it on vowels to help you narrow down the puzzle to make it easier to solve, but you do not win money from picking out the vowels. Once you think you know what the answer is, you can go ahead and tell them what the answer is. If you're correct, then you win all the money that you had gathered that round. If somebody else solves the puzzle, then all the money you've earned from spinning and guessing letters do not stay with you for that round, and you start the next round. Now, on the wheel, there's also such things as a free spin, which will, if you get something wrong, let you take another turn instead of passing it to the next person. A quote-unquote surprises, which are just bigger value items that you can win, adds on to your score, but you have to spin it, win it, and then end the round by solving the puzzle. There's also lose a turn, which will just skip your turn and go to the next person, or bankrupt, which will wipe out all of the money you've gathered that round, and then also pass the turn on to the next person. Normally during the game show you have the host Pat Sajak, who is basically just kind of emceeing everything, telling them if they're right, if they're wrong. He knows what the puzzles are. He's kind of telling whose turn it is, getting to know the contestants. And then you have Vanna White, who's up at the board and actually turns the letters, or at least back in like the 80s, turned the letters because it was a physical board. And after the 90s or 2000s, they turned to digital touch screens, and she would just touch the screens. And she became a kind of icon of the show since she was a model basically, and people latched onto the model. And it's kind of funny, on this game they don't have Pat Sajak here, it's just all Vanna White. She's doing the hosting, and there really isn't anybody turning over the letters since it's a computer game. The game is very interactive, especially for how early it is. A lot of what you might call FMVs, just little moments where they have Vanna White telling you different things showing up on screen. But even when you're picking what mode you want to play, there's a lot of talking to you, getting you to enter your information and switching between screens. They let you choose what background or kind of studio you want to be in, because the show often goes to different locations or has different motifs just to keep it a little more interesting instead of being the same. In this game there's about 4 different motifs, and they're all just, it's got badly made 3D models just scattered around of whatever the motif is. It doesn't always make a whole lot of sense. As you're playing, the screen won't just stare at the puzzle straight on. It'll often switch to different angles, kind of like you're watching a TV show. It keeps things from getting too boring. This game offers 3 different modes to play. The first is normal mode, which is probably what will normally be played, either if you want to play by yourself with 2 computers, or if you want to play with friends and possibly 1 computer player. This is how the game normally plays, like on TV. Single mode is a mode where you would play with 1 person, just yourself. You get to pick each letter at a time while you're spinning to earn the money, but there's no other players to pass to if you happen to lose. You're just given 8 free spins, and once you run out of free spins, then you lose the game. Hopefully you can solve the puzzles without running out of spins, make it to the bonus round, and set the highest score possible to leave your mark on the high score board that the game has. Tournament mode allows you to play up to 20 players. After entering everybody's name, it'll then randomly pick groups of 3 to play against each other, and after each round the winners will move on to play another game against each other until you have 1 winner left. The biggest thing that annoys me, especially in single player mode, is that I seem to have spun, bankrupt, and lose a turn twice as much as the computers combined. I don't know if I'm just unlucky or if it works that way. If you're playing against 2 other real players, it doesn't matter as much because you can't blame the computers for cheating when there are no computers. In single player mode, it's especially harmful because you only have so many free spins, and if you lose 2, 3, 4, 5 of them just from spinning unluckily, then that kind of takes away the fun from the game. With the single player mode, I kind of wish they would have just left those spaces off of the wheel. Another thing about the solo mode is that a lot of times they'll pick out puzzles that don't have common letters in it. So most phrases, words will have the letters R, T, and S in it. If it doesn't have any of those, you're most likely going to waste 3 free spins just trying to even get 1 letter on the board. That being said, I do kind of wish that solo mode had an unlimited mode where you don't just lose in the second puzzle because you've tried too many times. Maybe have it take away money or a percentage of the money that you earn for how many wrong letters you have, and let you finish to the end and then keep a score that way. As it is, it's really hard to go through solo mode. I haven't been able to get past the second puzzle myself, not that I'm one of the best Wheel of Fortune players, but I find it really hard with having to guess the letters, not knowing anything that's there, and being able to spin the lose a turns so often just makes it way too hard to make it through this mode. A few things I do really like is that the sound effects that they have are taken right from the show, along with, like, say, the theme song and the introduction, and being able to see Vanna White say a bunch of stuff. It's all very fun, very nostalgic for if you watch the show and how the show used to be back in the 90s when this game was made. It's also kind of funny whenever they do the prizes, since you're not actually winning the prizes, but they put a dollar amount up for them. So I've noticed when I've seen the different prizes, they all have about the same dollar amount, which makes sense for keeping the game fair, but the dollar amount that they give to things don't really make sense. That's mostly all I have to say about Wheel of Fortune. It's a lot better of a game if you have a couple of people that you want to play against every once in a while. It's fun to solve puzzles on your own, but you're not going to spend a whole lot of time with this. It's more of a pick up and play, put back down, pick up and play every once in a while, or again if you have a family game night. A lot of fun to play with other people. It's just a little frustrating when you're playing against the computers. You could probably find this on your own in a Goodwill or online for about $5. So that's all for today. Tune in next time for